over my years of being with NFL Network and NFL Total Access, I've interviewed many an NFLPA president, starting with Trace Armstrong back in the day, now an agent, Troy Vincent, who's now at the league, and then Kevin Mawai, who's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Those were the first three. And a center is back under center as the president of the NFLPA. Welcome to the Rich Eisen Show, J.C. Tretter of the Cleveland Browns. How are you, J.C.?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
A pleasure to chat with you. So let's just jump right into it, if you don't mind. Is there a boycott of voluntary off-season in-person activities going on with the NFL Players Association in the NFL?
Well, I don't think boycott's the word. I think to start, the off-season is voluntary, and that has slowly lost its definition over time when it comes to voluntary off-season workouts. And I think some of the media and some fans, and I know a lot of the teams have stopped looking at voluntary as meaning actually voluntary. And I think guys right now are making an informed decision about what's in their best interest when it comes to their health and safety. And that's what being a professional is all about, is making informed decisions for what's best for your health, your career. And guys are doing that. And we're seeing those people come out and come forward and say what they want to do moving forward.
Okay, so there's no coordination occurring at the union level with all the teams? There's now 4, based on my count, including the defending Super Bowl champs, which will definitely get some attention. Is there no coordination between these teams at all?
Between the teams, no, but we're the union, so when guys have questions and guys want to know what's going on in negotiations, whether they're going to be protected, what are the protocols, we give them those answers and we give them that data and that information. So we're in contact with all the teams because that's our job as a union, is informing our players on what's going on and what information they need.
So how many teams do you expect, based on the information that they've been asking for and that has been provided to them, to wind up with similar stances as the Lions, Bucks, Seahawks, and Broncos, as you and I currently are talking, J.C. Tretter?
It really comes down to each person making their individual choice. So those conversations will continue to happen, I'm sure. But if we just take a step back for a second, we did this all of last year. We had a virtual off season. And some feared what would happen with injuries or what would happen with the product on the field. And what we saw was injuries were down. We had a 23% drop in missed time injuries last year. We had a 30% reduction in concussions. Nearly every type of injury was down or flat compared to their 5-year trends. And then when it comes to the product, we saw scoring be up. We saw the margin of victory be as close as it's been in over a decade. We've seen more teams in the playoff hunt at the end of the season than ever before. We've saw more come from behind victories than ever before. So when injuries are down and parity's up and drama's up and scoring's up, it starts to point to the fact that this isn't necessary. And when you go back, all you're risking is getting hurt and potentially losing out on making the team. Guys are going to have to start making a decision on what's best. That's in a normal year. What's going on right now is COVID's still going on, and we're at 3 times the daily cases that we had last year at this time, and we're not back to normal. So there are decisions to be made with a pandemic going on that last year we both agreed, the NFL and the NFLPA, that's in everybody's best interest to just stay safe and stay apart for a while. And now you hear stories like Jason Tatum come out and talk about how he has to take an inhaler before every game because he's still feeling the effects of COVID. Myles Garrett talked about it publicly this year. So as a player, when you're looking at all this information, why would you go back in April, May, June, risk catching COVID, and then when you actually have to perform during the season, you might be still feeling the ill effects of that would affect your performance, affect whether you make the team. Guys have to make those decisions for themselves now.
J.C. Tretter, Browns center and NFLPA president here on the Rich Eisen Show. So when Bruce Arians says something along the lines of first, second, and third-year players are not going to be as advanced because of the lost time in voluntary workouts and that they might lose their gigs to veterans, how do you respond to that?
My job and our job as a union is to know what our players want. and this is what our players want. And we surveyed our players, and the vast majority of our players think the virtual offseason is the best for this year. And that wasn't just the veterans saying that. Just as many young guys, just as many guys with 1 year of experience, 2 years of experience, 3 years of experience responded saying that they think the virtual offseason is the best thing for them this year as the older guys did. So that's a narrative that just doesn't have any factor or proof to it. It's just used to try to divide the union, but we know what we want. We as players talk, and we as a union are in charge of representing what all players want, and that's what we're doing.
No, and look, this is not my first rodeo on this subject matter, JC. It is the first time we're having a conversation that, I've seen the concept of voluntary be put in air quotes and then assumed to be mandatory. And I've seen how many players bristle because they're painted as being less than a team player because of it. And so where does it stop? You do negotiate to have something actually termed mandatory. So for those mandatory scenarios, the teams that are saying right now they're not going to appear, the players on these teams that they're not going to appear for voluntary workouts, they still plan on appearing for the mandatory sessions. Is that true?
Yeah,
or?
We would surely advise them to. There are contractual obligations about being there for the mandatory portions. And we would surely explain that to everybody about why you have to be there, what's in your contract, and what would the repercussions be if you don't show up to the mandatory portion of it.
Okay, and just a couple other, viewpoints to put it in your direction for your response on it. What about the concept that the facilities were, for the lack of a better phrase, as hardened against COVID as they possibly could, just a 0.08% positivity rate last year. So what would be the concern of actually appearing in a facility that has been set up similarly to last year for a voluntary workout?
The off season and the regular season are two completely different parts of the year with completely different rules on what would go on. So the off season, you only need to be there 4 days a week if you want credit. Those are the amount of days a team can hold you. Mm-hmm. So guys are free to leave. Guys didn't leave their home cities during the season. We had a virtual bubble. Guys stayed dedicated to staying in town, staying year round, all year for the season. They tested every day. That will not be going on. So we don't know what our facilities will look like. So we can't compare what happened last year during the regular season to what will go on this year in the off season because the protocols will not be the same. There will be giant holes and openings for COVID to get in the building. And that's what guys are realizing, just how different the regular season would be compared to what this would look like as an off-season program.
And what about the concept of vaccination? That if everyone was vaccinated, that this might be a different scenario and a different conversation. What's the NFLPA's stance on having the membership vaccinated, J.C.?
We've provided information, and we have a great medical director in Tom Mayer where we allow guys to ask those questions. I have gotten my first shot, but I won't be fully vaccinated until mid-May. And if you haven't gotten your first shot yet, you might not be fully vaccinated till June comes around, which is the entire off-season program. So vaccinations are great to talk about, but they're just not going to be part of this conversation as of right now because just the timeline to get fully vaccinated wouldn't have been completed by the time that the off-season would be completed.
All right, so then let's look over the steering wheel towards a playing season that's coming up, J.C. Tretter. The league sent out a memo to essentially say league employees or team employees that are not vaccinated are not allowed around folks like you, Tier 1 and Tier 2. And it seemed to me, reading that memo, that I guess the league's leaving up the mandating concept of vaccinations to the union. So what is the union's stance on telling players to get vaccinated in time for the playing season? Is there one?
Yeah, the league's made it clear they're not gonna mandate vaccines for the players. And our stance is we're going to allow players to make their decision. We're providing them all the information. We think guys need to read it, understand it, and make the best decision for themselves. That's been our position, and that's what we need guys to do. And that's going to take time. That's going to take. We've seen kind of the slow growth in the vaccination rate in the NBA. That's not done overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time, and that's why we're providing opportunities for guys to talk and learn and talk to our medical director and talk to experts on the field just to feel comfortable in what they're doing.
And so what's your general sense as the president? Do you think that there is a sense that much of the Players Association is going to get vaccinated in time for the season? Or do you think that there is a considerable pushback? We saw my colleague at the NFL Network through his podcast, Kyle Brandt, talk to Josh Allen, and Josh definitely seemed like somebody who had to think about it and might actually lean against it. What's your general sense, J.C.?
I think we're people. So I always try to look at we are just a microcosm of the general population.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll probably fall down a similar line of that. So I don't know. I don't think we're any different or we look at the world any different. We are just normal people who have the same beliefs as people who aren't professional football players. And that's going to be kind of how we fall. But again, I think all of the vaccination talk, I think we're very hopeful that we will be back to normal and we can have full stadiums and have the fans back in September. But April isn't September, and we're nowhere near those points now. And that's one of the issues we're having right now is the NFL has this feeling of we're going to be normal for the regular season, so let's just go back to normal now. And we're not normal now.
So, J.C. Tretter, a few more minutes left with the Cleveland Browns Center here on the Rich Eisen Show. The season for the Cleveland Browns that you guys had last year was stupendous. I know you might not have gotten as far as you had hoped, but there was a major leap forward. Why? What happened last year, J.C., that you can actually put into terms? Talk a little football with you before I let you go.
I give a ton of credit to Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry for coming in and developing the culture that they want for the team. And we just really came together, and it was not tough. And that's why Kevin deserves so much credit for being a first-year head coach, coming into a year like last year with the protocols and the all-virtual offseason and all those things, to be able to step in, implement your system, implement your program, and find immediate success shows just what a quality coach and human being and leader he is. And that's what he did. He built a team. He built the team camaraderie and built us into a great team. And that kind of the saddest part is I always think back to that Pittsburgh game at Cleveland, Week 17, to go to the playoffs. And I just wish the world was different. We could have had a sold-out crowd for that.
Sure.
And to see the dog pound back for that game would have been great. That's just a missed opportunity. We are very hopeful for many more of those to come, but that's one I wish we could have experienced the full taste of Cleveland Browns football.
No, I'm sure of it, but you obviously, that's your point, is there's more to come. Obviously, in terms of proximity on the field, nobody's closer than you to Baker Mayfield. What change occurred, do you think, with Stefanski and him? It's a maturation process for anybody, regardless of a first overall selection or 199 overall like Brady. But what in your estimation, from your point of view, occurred with Baker Mayfield for him to take that leap last year?
Baker's always been a leader, so that's the first thing you saw when he walked in the building as a rookie. And then he continued to develop as a player and as a leader, and becomes a better leader and a better player. And that takes time. Everybody continues to get better as you work. And I think Baker has just absolutely worked his tail off all of last offseason, all of this past season, and even this offseason. Talking to him, you see how much work he's putting in. I'm excited to see him come back and see all the growth he'll have between the end of last year when we get started this year.
And then just, I guess, to bring it all full circle, do the Cleveland Browns plan on appearing for voluntary off-season workouts, or might you and your colleagues and brethren join the other four teams that have made a statement that they're not showing?
Yeah, that'll be a individual decision that we'll talk about as a team. We haven't had that conversation yet, but I don't speak for the Cleveland Browns. I don't speak for every guy in the Cleveland Browns. We'll talk to them just like other teams are having these conversations, and every guy will make their choice on what they want to do.
Why are centers so good at this job for the President J.C.? Because and it's not just he wasn't the president at the time, but I had a whole half-hour-long conversation with Jeff Saturday on NFL Network during the lockout when the winter was very, very cold in the middle of the summer. What is it about centers makes this so good?
I don't know. I think we have a ton of leaders in the locker room and in the union. Our executive committee is great, and we have Alex Mack on that, but we have a ton of other Calais Campbell, Richard Sherman, Michael Thomas. We have a bunch of really great leaders on the executive committee and as reps. But it might just be a coincidence that a couple centers have taken the lead in some issues, but there are a lot of really quality people and quality leaders all across locker rooms.
Well, I guess let's be honest. That I'm not to be coward and try and snag on your quarterback here, but if Baker was such a leader, how come you're not in a Progressive commercial with him, Jason?
Well, I've let him know that I noticed that the rookie left tackle got the first jump into the commercial than some of his older teammates. So I've made that clear to him. But no, it's he does a hell of a job on those.
Yeah, I mean, you went to Cornell. You could be in the book club, JC. Come on, you could be in his book club.
I would definitely fit that. I would definitely fit that. That role well.
Yes, you could get in the stands with the book club waiting for someone to show. You can do that. I mean, let's just pound the table. I'll just do my best to pound the table for you. You know?
I love it. I need all the help I can get.
JC, appreciate the time in the chat. I know these are interesting times. Let's keep talking if you don't mind. Good luck in the off season, and we'll chat down the line.
Absolutely. Appreciate having me on.
You bet. That's J.C. Tretter, the president of the Players Association and the Cleveland Browns center, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.